Hey guys, back with another X-Plane 11 video in VR using FlyInsideXP. It's the start of a series I'm going to be doing, which is a cross-country series. Going to go across the United States from JFK in New York to LAX in Los Angeles. Looking forward to this. Breaking it up into 10 legs, trying to keep those legs reasonable time frames, but a couple of them are going to be kind of long. But here's where we're going to go. We're going to be going from Kennedy to Harrisburg for the first leg, then to Pittsburgh for a second leg, that's about an hour and 20. Then to Port Columbus, that's a little over an hour. Then to Indianapolis, an hour and 20. Then to Lambert, St. Louis, that's a hour 34. Then to Will Rogers, Oklahoma, that's 2 hours and 50. That's the longest. Then we're going to go to Rick Husbands in Amarillo. That's an hour and 36. Then to Gallup, New Mexico, that's 2 hours and 30. It's another long one. Then we'll go to McCarran in Las Vegas. That's 2 hours and 17 minutes. And then we'll head into Los Angeles for the final leg at an hour and 37. So the total nautical miles is 2250, and the total flight time is about 6 hours. That's not including fueling and taxing and all that stuff. So again, broken up to 10 legs. I'm going to be talking about flight sim and other topics, maybe some viewer comments, answer some viewer questions, that sort of thing. So really looking forward to doing this. Let's start off at Kennedy, going to Harrisburg, and we'll take our first leg. All right, guys. It's 6 a.m. or 6:15, actually 6:16 a.m. here at JFK in New York. Getting ready for leg one of a cross-country trip from New York to Los Angeles. Today we're going to be flying to Harrisburg, a beautiful day. In the spring, it's early morning flying. We're going to go past New York and show you a little bit of that using the GPS today. Let me get the CDI on GPS. And let me just show you the flight plan here. I've got all my flight plans. There's actually 10 of them for all the trips of the 10 legs. And today we're going to be going to JFK to KMDT, which is Harrisburg. That's our plan. But it's about an hour trip. And we're in the Aerosphere Seminole Piper Seminole, twin engine, nice plane, cruising speed at about 150, 160 knots, so get there pretty quick. Got plenty of fuel, and looking forward to the trip. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Flight Sim World today and a few other things, and get off on our first voyage here across the country. So let's go. See, let me get rid of the GPS so you guys can see. There we go. All right. So we got the map there, so you can see where we are. And here we go. Brakes on. Power up. 2,500 RPM. Actually, we'll go max power. Brakes off. I love these Aerosphere planes. Still got the lights on the runway. And rotate. All right. Landing gear up.
Landing gear going up.
I'll talk about that in a second.
Landing gear up and locked.
Thank you. That's a thing called pilot command, which I found. I think some of you are probably aware of that, but I'll talk about that in a second here. We're going to check out New York City. I'm going to veer off here a little bit. Get to about 1,500, and then we'll pick up our GPS about 130 nautical miles to Harrisburg, so it'll be about an hour trip, a little under an hour. Get us up to 1,500. We'll set our altitude. Beautiful day. I'm using I have the custom New York scenery. Get it on xplane.org. I think it was like about $60 with the airports, something like that, $50 or $60. Well worth it. I mean, I live in the New York metropolitan area, so I really wanted to have that because I like to fly around, a lot around this area. So let's get up to 1,500 here. We'll hit the altimeter and the autopilot. Good. 1538. Okay, cool. And we'll stay on this track here. Set our bug. so we can check out New York. And then we'll just put it on heading here on the autopilot. And then once we go past New York, we'll pick up our GPS by hitting nav on the autopilot. So, anyway, again, we're here in our Piper Seminole Aerosphere. You can check them out on xplane.org. I was there, kind enough to give me this plane. Really nice plane. I love flying it. And we're using FlyInside in VR, as some of you guys probably know. We're getting 23 frames per second in X-Plane, 94 frames per second in the headset. I'm using an Oculus Rift CV1. So anyway, let's talk about Flight Sim World. Wow, all the buzz, the big buzz about Flight Sim World. Well, over here we've got about 160. Let me knock this down a little bit here. Well, first let me talk about flight plane. I think it's plane command. So it's voice-activated cockpit control, which is really cool to have. Man, we are cruising here. I want to keep it at about 170. So there's Manhattan there. Sorry, let's take that in. So that's the custom Manhattan scenery. The bridges are really cool. What I love about it is it has the let me just veer over there, I'll show you. It has the Freedom Tower, which I think is really important for Manhattan scenery. That's one thing Flight Sim World doesn't have. It kind of bugs me that it doesn't have the Freedom Tower. But the bridges are really well designed. One thing that kind of bugs me about that custom scenery is that uptown isn't really defined. It's more downtown than midtown. But I mean, some of the buildings are pretty cool, like the Pan Am Building, Empire State Building. They're all very, very well rendered. But I would have liked to have seen some more of the uptown, like Yankee Stadium, maybe Shea Stadium in Queens, that kind of stuff. So those things aren't really modeled. Statue of Liberty is right over there, which is very well modeled in the custom scenery. But there's the Freedom Tower right there. You see the highest point in New York. And there's Jersey City right in front of us, right across the river. So, all right, let's, we're going to set this to nav now, and we should start to bank here to the left to pick up our GPS coordinate to Harrisburg. We're cruising at about 155 at 1538, so perfect. Anyway, let's talk about Flight Sim World. Wow. Well, I did 2 videos on it. I did a, there's Ellis Island down there, by the way, right there. Very well modeled. I did 2 videos on it. First was a low to ultra settings frame rate test. And I left traffic on, okay, which probably wasn't the best idea, because I didn't really realize that in Flight Sim, you're not really able to use traffic, air traffic. It just slows things down. So I did another video at ultra turning traffic off, and there was some improvement. I was getting in the mid-20s to low 30s flying around Flight Sim World's Manhattan area. So, I mean, you got to remember it's early access, and I'm sure there's going to be improvement, and that's what they're looking for. And I got the software for free. Well, I paid for flight school, so I got the FSW for free. And so I didn't have to shell out 25 bucks. But in any event, let's talk about it a little bit. Now, the airplane modeling, as far as the way they look in 2D, again, I'm looking at, I had to play it in 2D. It doesn't have VR. It's very impressive. They did a very nice job on the graphical modeling of the aircraft on the inside. Some of the aircraft, the outside kind of looks a little bulky. There's the Verrazano Bridge right over there. But the instruments and controls and stuff look very good. The GPS still doesn't update at a decent frame rate. It's a very chunky frame rate, which is kind of bothersome, but that's the same as it is on Flight Sim FSX. There's a lot of similarities between the two. It's obviously the cousin of FSX, but there's some improvements. Like I said, the plane modeling is good. As far as the plane physics, I found them to be a little bit sluggish. Now, I'm not a real pilot. I'm just comparing it to what I fly in X-Plane 11. That's really my sim of choice. The planes seem to be a little bit sluggish. They don't react well to when you turn the yoke. Like you see here on an X-Plane, when I turn the yoke, the plane reacts. I found that in FSW, pretty much every plane I flew, when I turned the yoke, there was like a 300 millisecond, a quarter millisecond delay, a quarter second delay, right? Between the time you move the yoke and the time the plane actually responded, which I found troublesome. Now, maybe there's a thing I can tweak, but I thought that was a little bit unrealistic. So that's the one thing. Taking off seemed to be okay. The physics of that seemed to be fine. Landing, I don't know. It just didn't seem as realistic as it does in X-Plane 11. I mean, that's what I'm going to compare it to, okay? As far as the scenery goes, the scenery pretty much looks to me very similar to FSX. I don't really see much of a change. I mean, I'm sure there's some changes, some improvements, but it's still that, you know, not cartoonish, but definitely drawn rendering. Now, I'm using HD mesh scenery from ALPilotsX.net, I think the website is, that you can download. I downloaded all the mesh for North and South America and the Caribbean and Hawaii, so I've got a little bit better upgraded scenery. And here I'm in the New York area, which is custom scenery. And so I'm kind of used to like the more photorealistic, but I would not call Flight Sim World photorealistic. You know, I would, as we bank here to pick up our GPS coordinate, I would not call it photorealistic. I would call it a little, it seemed to me a bit of an upgrade from FSX, okay? Now, as far as performance, you know, with traffic off, yes, you can get frames rates in the 20s and 30s in dense areas. And again, I'm using a 1080 Ti, right? So, but the problem I have with it is it's only utilizing the 1080 Ti like 25-30%. I think it's still very CPU intensive. CPU is around 40%, 30-40% in those situations, like flying in New York at ultra with no traffic. CPU is like 35-40%. GPU is hardly utilized. So there's still some work to be done to take advantage of 10 series GPU power, I think, okay? I will say that compared to FSX and flying FSX, I was able to tweak it in a New York area. Flying out of Newark, I was able to get like 50-60 frames per second at ultra settings, okay? There's no way you could get that right now in Flight Sim World. So they've got some work to do. And again, it's early access. Now, the whole philosophy these days of selling an early access, basically selling a beta, getting money for your beta, and you know, using the general public to improve to a general available release, is pretty common practice. I mean, Dovetail's not the only company that's done that. You know, there's other companies that do that, especially the independent gamers. A lot of them do that. And I'm fine with it. Most people that buy into it are the ones that are into helping or help improving, okay? I mean, there's some that buy it and want to complain. That's fine. People want to complain. I don't think that really does much good to complain. I think it's better if you have a constructive criticism, to let the developer know what you think. And, you know, I'm sure what they're going to do is compile all the people that ask for certain things and make decisions on what they improve and what they don't improve. Okay, give ourselves a little bit more boost here. Keep in mind it's early access. Keep in mind that they're going to want to improve things. It is buggy. Like, one of the things I really liked was the rain effect. When you turn the rain on, when you're in a rainy environment, the way the water beads off the windshield and the canopy is really cool. Now, it's not totally realistic because, I mean, if you were flying, I think I was flying like 140 knots, and you could still see, you know, at that point you wouldn't even see water on the windshield, right? but you still see it. So I think they have some realism improvements to make there, but it is a cool effect. Now they get that effect from, I know TSW, Train Sim World, does the exact same thing, and it looks very similar to the beating that you see in Train Sim World. So it's pretty cool, but that's not the reason. The rain effect on the glass, which everybody wants to see, and I have it in the live stream that I did. If you want to check it out, that's not what a sim really makes a sim. What makes a sim is the realism, the flow of it, the fact that it's a fluid movement. I'm looking down there at the ground, and the ground is moving. That's a little chunky there, but for the most part, pretty fluidly, right? And that's what you want. And you want things to give you the immersion of being in a simulator, especially in VR, right? Being in a real cockpit in a real plane. You want to get that feeling. Like right now, I feel like I'm in a real plane, right? But I would not say that you get that feeling in FSW. I would call FSW a very good entry-level flight sim concept. If you're new to flight simulation, you want to learn how to fly, they've got some good tutorials, and I think it's a good platform for that. The navigation is all kind of drag and drop, point and click, help you through it. It's not, I think a real pilot, I'm not saying I'm not a real pilot, but a real pilot or someone who's used to plotting their own flight plans using a GPS might get frustrated with that. You can see in the video that I did, you actually go in and you pick, points from point A to point B, from one airport to the other, and you have to, you don't have to do that, but that's what they want you to do. It's sort of like almost like a sim and a game mixture, if you will, right? I mean, you get awarded points for completing a mission, those sorts of things. Now, that's fine. Some people may want that, and that's fine. And I think that market is going to gravitate to that type of flight sim. There's also, but it's not, right now it's not, it's taking along that same life that FSX had in that mission, earn points, kind of gaming kind of flight sim, if you will. Just my humble opinion. Whereas X-Plane 11 and P3D are more geared towards trying to improve the real-world realism, right? So, that said, if I didn't have it for free because I had flight school, would I have bought it? Well, yeah, I would have bought it because I have a simulation gaming channel, and I would spend the $25 to get it so that I could show it to you guys, right? If I was, a person interested in flight sims, and I had the right hardware, yeah. I mean, the right hardware is a i7 type chip, class chip, multi-threaded, 8 CPU kind of chip. I have an i7 6700. I think you're going to want that type of CPU or above to play that game, or flight sim, if you will. I think it's a 1060 or above, at least a 1060 or above. Although I have seen people using 970s and 980s, and they're saying on social media that they're getting good rates. So if you're willing to play it at lower graphic settings, those GPUs should be fine. So I would say I would call it an entry-level flight simulation. I would not say that Dovetail Games has revolutionized flight simulation. I would not say that at all. Again, that's my humble opinion. You guys may disagree, but I don't see that. I don't see Flight Sim World as a revolutionary platform. I see it as an improvement to FSX, the franchise that they purchased, and they started to improve with Flight School, and now they're trying to improve into a full-fledged worldwide flight simulator. So that's how I see it. Some of you guys may disagree. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Again, I would spend $25 on it if I was interested in an improvement on FSX. If I have a big investment in FSX, which I don't, in custom planes and all that, I might just stick with FSX. Now, I have heard that the guys that are familiar with FSX have already kind of hacked into Flight Sim World and gotten their third-party planes to work with it. I've heard a little bit of discussion about that. So that kind of thing is going on, and that's good. You know, you want to see third-party planes, and you want to see the platform develop. But I really think that Dovetail, the first thing they've got to look at is they've got to improve the frame rate utilization. They have to do that. So I've got about 38 more minutes here. Train Sim World, when it first came out, it was horrendous. It was pretty horrendous. In fact, I did a video why I'm not going to buy Train Sim World, and then a couple of weeks later, they came out with a beta release that had some considerable graphic optimization improvements. I did a video on it. I was getting frame rates in Ultra in like the 70s, 60s, and 70s. Okay, so they really tried to make it a stable, well-running platform, and I think that's important for them to do. You know, everybody's screaming for more content in Train Sim World, and we want more content, but it's important to stabilize the platform before they do that. So I'm hoping that Dovetail takes the same track in Flight Sim World, where they stabilize the utilization, improve some of the ground textures and stuff, then start to build on it. So, like, I mean, the ground textures in Flight Sim World, some of the things that I don't like some of the trees are like this really awful green. Like, they're not natural green. They're like I don't want to say it's neon green, but it's like a bright green. Whereas, you know, you look down there, those trees are all like dark green. Trees are dark green, most trees, you know. Well, they have some dark green trees, but they also have these like really bright green trees, and it just doesn't look real. When you're flying in the weather with rain and there's mist, sometimes you look down and it looks like there's snow on the ground. And I know the effect they're trying to get is looking through the mist, but that's not what's happening. What's happening is you look on the ground and it looks like it's snow covered. And I think a couple other people have talked about that. So, and I'm sure they're going to work all those things out, but you know, I think they need to really spend some time improving the realism. It's just, if they want that franchise to take off. Now, there's a lot of fanboys all over social media, you know, saying, you know, give it a chance. It's an early access, and I totally agree. It's early access. But this is what we're doing. We're letting them know what we think about it and how we think they can improve it. Okay. Do I think it'll ever be like X-Plane 11? I'm not sure. I think Laminar has a really big head start on continuing to develop a photorealistic 3D simulator. Aerofly FS2 is another one that's well on their way to be a very good simulator. They've got some things to do on the navigation side. And P3D. I don't have P3D, but I know I'm pretty sure P3D is like a improvement on the FSX model, but a lot of people rave about it. I just don't have the $200 to spend on it. I mean, I'm happy with X-Plane 11, but you know, I think that FSW has some competition ahead of it to you know, become a dominant force in the flight sim world. I mean, you know, would you pay $25 for it? Yeah, I mean, I guess you would, you know, just to try it out and have it in your arsenal to play around. But I mean, I wouldn't do a cross-country trip in FSW. I just wouldn't, because I know the ground textures aren't going to be interesting. I know the airports aren't going to be that detailed. You know, the airports in Flight Sim World are like all the concrete and asphalt are like the same bright white. There's no like detail. Now I have add-ons to add detail to the runways, but even in FSX you have that. I had that Rex, is it Rex 4 or whatever it's called? I was using that in FSX that gives you that detail. They should have built that into it. They should have built that into the base system. You know, when you land now at airports in FSW, the concrete is all that bright white. It looks like a bright sunny Florida day at noon, with all the reflective concrete, and it's just not natural. I don't know. I just don't think. And the airports look, you know, they're kind of like boxy looking, and I don't know. It just doesn't. It's not appealing to the eye, you know. And again, I was flying. I had to fly it in 2D because obviously it's not supported in VR, and I'm trying to give it a fair shake. But I'm not, and I don't think I'm saying anything that a lot of other people have said. So, in any event, I think we're crossing the Delaware River here, coming up. Pretty sure it's the Delaware. So we're in western New Jersey right now, I would imagine. Let me look on the map. Yep, we're in western New Jersey. Looks like we're a little bit, probably about 15 miles northwest of Trenton. Trenton would be right over there. And that would be the Delaware River right there. Up there would be the Delaware Water Gap, way up there. So, yeah, so that's Flight Sim World. I can go on and on. I'm going to play it some more. I'll probably stream it some more. Give it a good shot, offer my feedback to Dovetail if they'll listen. I'd like to see it become a solid product, but it does have a long way to go. I was watching one YouTuber, I'm not going to mention who it was, who really railed it. I mean, he's an actual real pilot, and I can understand I don't think any real pilot, I shouldn't say that. I would say most real pilots probably would not prefer FSX or Flight Sim World. I just don't think it offers enough realism for them to be able to use it as an effective tool to train. I think X-Plane 11 or P3D, those are the platforms of choice for, a real role pilot, or those trying to become, like I have this aspiration of someday becoming, hopefully, a real-world pilot. I'm thinking about starting to do that. We'll see. Takes a lot of money, a lot of time, but I know that if I did, I would probably use X-Plane 11 as my home training. So there's the Delaware right there. Great fishing in the Delaware River. Been fishing there many times. Great kayaking, canoeing, nice place to be. Wonderful part of New Jersey right here, western New Jersey, along the river. Part that most people don't get to see. So 79 miles out of Harrisburg. About 30 minutes left to go. Sit back and enjoy the ride a little bit. Right down there is Reading, Pennsylvania. Didn't realize that Reading, Pennsylvania would be so well modeled, the next plane, but that's pretty cool. A nice amount of detail for a city in the middle of PA. Pretty cool. So right now we're heading into the Lancaster area, which is the famous home of the Amish in Pennsylvania, one of the areas where the Amish are. Very pretty country area, a lot of farmland and stuff like that, so pretty cool to visit. All right, we are 13, almost 14 nautical miles outside of KMDT, which is Middletown Airport in the Harrisburg area. So we got about 5 minutes to get there. We're going to start to slow down here. We should be, according to Sky Vector, we're going to have to go, we're probably going to have to turn a little bit to the south to pick up this runway correctly. It's right along the river, so we should be fine here. So we'll let the autopilot do its thing for a little bit longer, and then we'll, once we get closer to the water there, we'll take it off and start to descend. We only have about 1,500 feet to go down, so it should be pretty easy landing into Middletown in the Harrisburg area. Hope you guys enjoyed the flight, trying a little bit the different editing style of these flights. I'm thinking about doing is next time actually streaming one of the legs, maybe the next leg, live on YouTube, but then I'll record it and edit it into the actual video. But this way you guys maybe can participate and I can talk to some people and stuff like that. It'd be kind of cool, or at least chat with them on chat. So if I can get the virtual windowing working in FlyInside, that would be even better. Sometimes it's a little flaky in X-Plane 11, but I know that we're working on that. So it's a really cool feature. You're able to bring like a chat window right into the cockpit here, so I could read what's going on in chat while I have the headset on, which is great. It's the kind of things you need in VR, you know. Plane is moving along well. We kept it about 145 knots the whole way through Reading and Lancaster and western, or I should say central Pennsylvania, really. The rolling hills of central Pennsylvania. So again, if you guys have any comments on Flight Sim World, you guys are playing it or using it, would love to hear what you think. Let us know what your settings are, your specs are, what kind of performance you're getting, and what kind of enjoyment you're getting. That's really the most important thing, right? That's why we buy these sims, because we want to get enjoyment out of them, you know? So hopefully it's enjoyable. I know X-Plane 11 has been very enjoyable for me. It's, once I got everything set up right, and I got the HD mesh scenery working, and I got a couple of third-party planes, like this Seminole, this Aerosphere Piper Seminole, it became more and more fun. I do like the twin planes or the turbo planes that can do a little bit faster in the 150, 160 knot range, just because it makes the trips go faster. But I also like flying the Cessnas, the slower Cessnas too. So I'm more of a general aviation guy versus the large planes, just my preference. So yeah, in any event, let's I think it's time to take it off autopilot here. Let's do that, and I think I should do that by just hitting the trim. Yep. All right, we got the plane now, and we should be seeing our runway right up there. Now you see they have that carburetor ice indicator, or whatever it says. What does it say? Carburetor ice suspected. I'm not sure what the hell that is. I'll have to check that out. Maybe that's an X-Plane thing. I'm not sure. I don't see any temperature issues. It's a little over 50 degrees Fahrenheit, so I shouldn't have any icing issues, but not sure. So I think that's our airport right there. So we're going to, let's get the gear down. I forgot to talk about plane command. I think that's what it's called. I could say landing gear down. I'll talk about that next flight. All right, there's our runway. Let's turn here a little bit, start to slow up, flaps down, first position. Start to slow up. Let's bring it down to 2,500 knots, or RPM. The propeller flaps down, second position. There's our runway right there to our 3 o'clock. This is the Allegheny River, I guess. Beautiful, very nice. Now when we take off out of MDT, we'll probably cruise through Harrisburg because it's up there to the northwest a little bit. check that out. Flaps one more. We're good to go. Power it down. We're at holding at about 90 knots, which is great. Get ourselves lined up. Nothing like landing in VR. Really nice. Being able to turn your head and get that spatial awareness. All right, got a good approach here. Pretty good glide slope. Start to slow down. Runway, we got 3 greens on the wheels. We're looking good. Coming into the Middletown and the Harrisburg area. It's like there's something on the ground there. I'm not sure what the hell that. Oh, that might be our shadow. I think that's our shadow. Pay attention. Talking to myself. Get in the middle of the runway. We'll flare it up. And we'll get ourselves a nice... That's a weird looking shadow. Okay, bring down... There we go. Nice. Flare it up. Bring it down nicely. Bring it down. Bring it down. All right, we'll take it. Flaps up. Drop up. Brakes a little bit. We'll take the first taxiway. Everything looking good. It's a fun flight, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm going to enjoy this cross-country thing. Again, trying to do a little bit different editing techniques here to make it interesting for you, rather than your run-of-the-mill flight. I'm trying to take some cues from one of my favorite real pilot YouTubers, Captain Moonbeam. Oh, I love watching Captain Moonbeam. He does a great job with his editing. I really like his editing. It's a little old school, a little new school. It's interesting, kind of keeps you interested. Does a nice job. Let's find a place. That's a weird shadows going on here. Not sure what that is. But we'll find a place to park right over here. And we'll pick it up again from this airport the next time around. Let me turn around this way. There's the tower right there. That's probably a good end. I know this is kind of a crummy. Now watch this. Set parking brake.
Brakes set.
There you go. I'll talk about that next flight. In any event, thanks for watching, guys. Make sure you hit the like button if you like what you saw. And don't forget to subscribe to Bambino Games for more X-Plane 11 in VR. And stay tuned for the next leg of our journey across the country. Thanks for watching, guys, and have a great day.